Let's see. Channel. I think we're up. I don't think we're up just yet. What's going on? I think we're live. Yeah, we are. Wow, we're something good. Wow, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Greetings, greetings. Peace to you all. Pray you guys had a great, nice week. Getting ready to get into some good information tonight. As always, this is not legal advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you are seeking legal advice, please reach out to a licensed attorney for your legal matters. This is for fun, education, entertainment, public versus private, etc., etc. Really excited to get into the material tonight, as always. Last time we were here, we were talking about trustee responsibilities, privileges, etc., etc. That session was really good. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go ahead, do yourself a favor and check that out. Be well worth your time. This entire series is for you guys. It's for me to drill things into my head, even though I think they're already pretty well drilled. But there's no such thing as knowing too much or for lack of better wording, I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to sharpen the sword. And at the same time, learn alongside with you guys, and then also help you guys understand this information. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. So, express trust versus a corporation. But before we get started, let's look at what a corporation is. A lot of people don't know this. It is a legal person, if you did not know that. But I want to make sure that we have a sound foundation of what a corporation is. Public corporation. That might be a good one. Yes, that's a good one. A company who has traded shares publicly, not necessarily, but, and I'm going to go find the full definition if I can. And the shares are held by a large number, hundreds of thousands of different people, which isn't true, because for S corp you can't have more than 100 shareholders. A company owned by the government, this is the one I was looking for, that provides public. No, that's not even the one. So, waste of time. Whatever. It's all good. We'll find it. New corporation. I just want corporation. Normal corporation. Corporate entity is what we want. De jure corporation, de facto, C corp. I thought the other one was going to give the full definition, but I don't think it's going to. Thank you. I'm about to say like you guys are making me search. So a corporation, an artificial person. A person. Not a human, a person. So you go back to part 1 talking about what a person is. Make sure you grasp that foundation before you dive any further into this. Or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of the state or nation. When it says laws there, it's not talking about laws. It's really talking about code, statutes. And there's a difference. Public is code, statutes. Private is law, like constitutional law, common law. Composed in some rare instances of a single person and his successors being the incumbents of a particular altis, but ordinarily consisting of an association of numerous individuals who subsist as a body politic under a special denomination which is regarded in law as having a personality and existence distinct from that of its several members, and which is, by the same authority, vested with the capacity of continuous succession, irrespective of changes in its membership, either in perpetuity or for a limited term of years, and of acting as a unit or single individual in matters relating to the common purpose of the association, within the scope of the powers and authorities conferred upon such bodies by code, statute. So, long story short, if you didn't follow anything that I just read, basically it is a corporate person derived from the corporate state, derived from the corporate United States. Of course, messed that up. Okay, don't worry about it. What am I looking for? I'm looking for 28 USC. $28 USC 3002 states. Of course. I think it's number 18 anyways. There it is. No. 15. United States means a federal corporation. Just wanted to point that out to you guys. So basically, creation of the United States corporation, a artificial person, business, as an association, etc., underneath the rules and regulations set forth by that United States corporation, or the state of Oklahoma corporation, or the state of Mississippi corporation, or the state of whatever corporation. You ever notice when you're driving from town to town within your area, it says Swiss cheese township corporate limit? That's because it's everything's been commercialized. A lot of people try to say that it hasn't. It has. One USC talks about that, and especially in regards to persons. But anyways, let's continue. First, I must clarify, though I am referring primarily to corporations, included in the reference are all organizations which owe their existence to legislative acts. When we talk about legislative acts, we're talking about acts from Congress, or anything that has been derived from Congress, like the corporate states, state of Texas, state of whatever, derived from Congress. Those types of things, not the republic. So I want to make sure I make that distinction there. These are public entities. Public, private. Let's continue. Not limited to LLC, which is public, limited partnerships, public, agencies, associations, etc. Though not classified as corporations, they avail themselves of benefits, privileges, and franchises of the state for their very creation and existence. So what does that mean? Basically, you have to ask for permission, aka register, to have an entity. When you're creating a private express trust, you're not asking for any permission. You're just doing it. I want to look up the word register and apply. Register and apply. 4th edition, so it's good to have this up on the screen anyways. Rights which a king has by virtue of his prerogative. Hence, owners of counties palatine were formerly said to have jura regalia in their counties as fully as the king in his palace. The term is sometimes used in the same sense in the Spanish law. See Hart versus Burnett. Some writers divide the royal prerogative into majora and minora regalia. The former including the regal dignity and power, the latter the revenue of fiscal prerogatives of the crown. There's a better one. There's a lot better one. Because I can break that down for you, but I don't want to. I'm trying to keep these somewhat time crunched, so that that people are able to watch them in good chunks of time while they have some spare time on their hands. Oh well. But essentially, when you register, you're asking permission for the state to do something, and we know as a private citizen you don't need that. Second, since we have already shown the distinct juridical personality of the trust as a legal entity, We will not re-examine it until we consider its personality under Roman civil law of the 14th Amendment in a later section. There's a note here. 101 footnote. We already took that. 102. Okay. But it must be noted the well-settled law that the express trust is a lawful, notice the difference, lawful, not legal, legal, it's not that, valid business organization with the right to hold property and sue in its business name. There's some case law down here, 103, lawful, 103. The lawfulness of the express trust created under the common law is obvious. However, the allegation to the contrary has often been made in the past, and occasionally by the ignorant nowadays. Among the long list of precedents confirming its lawfulness is Palmer et al. V. Trailer, 1925, offered here simply to add to the collection. Basically saying like people will try to accuse your trust of being fraudulent or not a real person when it is a real person. Because it's under the common law of contracts. But continuing. And its uses in modern business have some of their strongest roots in England, Germany, and many of the United States, where it has been recognized for its superiority and even praised by such notable authorities as the Ohio Supreme Court for its effectiveness in the business of life insurance. There was not class of business, the transaction of which, as a matter of private right, was better recognized at common law than that of making contracts of insurance upon the lives of individuals. So for those of you that know, you can hold a life insurance policy within your trust, if you didn't know that. Which I don't want to get into that right now. There's so many tools that you can do with your trust. It's not even funny. Like, obviously, you can legally avoid taxes and that, but that's just such a small part of becoming a trustee of a private express trust. So there's a lot of financial, monetary benefits, but let's continue to dig into the foundational stuff here. The Declaration of Trust has been held to be an effective substitute for incorporation for its many advantages, which will undoubtedly shine through to the reader by the following table. I prepared this table based upon the work of John H. Sears, who, after discussing the impact of the twin landmark cases, Elliott versus Freeman, which that's a really good one. We've read over that briefly before. Go read that in your spare time. On the grave lack of profitability of using corporations for inter alia dealing in real estate, went to task in outlining the distinct benefits of express trust. The works by William C. Dunn, Guy A. Thompson, and Sidney R. Wrightington are cited as well. Mr. Sears says, the decision of the United States Supreme Court holding that the private express trusts are not subject to federal excise tax on corporations. Now I want to stop there for a second, because a lot of people like hear this and they're like, oh, well, if I use my trust for everything, then I don't have to pay taxes. That is correct, until you decide to incur a legal obligation to do so. Everything is contract, so you're basically ending up contracting within the system if you decide that you want to use it. You can still use your trust as a legal person, but if you play in their game, you have to follow their rules to a degree. A lot of people find out this information, they just go, because everyone's so quick to say the system's broken, like I've talked about in the other episodes. The read-throughs, the system's not broken, it's the understanding. Try that if you want. We do not give legal or financial advice or tax advice. We are here for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. That being said, it is very unwise to try to evade your taxes just because you don't like the system. If you don't like the system, just stop operating in commerce in general and let me know how that works out for you. Let me know how that works out for you, because there's a lot of people out there. I'm going on my tangent here. There's a lot of people out there that think, well, I can just say, screw this system. I don't have to do this. I'm a sovereign citizen, this and that. Man, look here. One, sovereign citizen, not even a real thing. And two, like, people understand what, if you were truly sovereign, what, your own land free and clear? Do you have your own military? Do you have your own barracks? Do you have your own weaponry? Do you have your own currency? If not, you are not sovereign. So put it away. Stop telling people that stuff. You're getting people hemmed up. Let's continue, because I could go on and on about that one, let me tell you. Oh, man. The best legal talent was soon impressed into the service of devising a means of affording the usual advantages belonging to a corporation without the authority of any legislative act. So what's that saying? Basically, they found all the best lawyers around, looked at what could we do in order to create a corporation without having to ask. On the opposite side, uh, putting regulations on corporations so that people feel like they need to do that, so then that we can siphon more money out of them. That's how that works. Double entendre. They use the private method and they give the public method. A method of placing the property into the hands of trustees who held the legal title and issued certificates similar to shares of stock to the Sestake Trust, showing the interest owned by each possessed. They're not gonna give it to me. Alright. Whatever. Let's keep going. This excluded the use of limited liability companies, joint stock associations, and co-partnerships, which are organized under enabling statutes, legislation, public, which merely enlarge the privileges possessed at common law, and they are, therefore, subject to state regulations, which may be equally burdensome to those imposed on corporations. So here's the thing. I wanna clarify this. Like, obviously, we're talking about statutes, codes, ordinances, as opposed to the common law and the Constitution. Here's the thing. Not all codes and statutes are bad inherently, but they do place you underneath the jurisdiction and creating things underneath those codes. Some of the codes and statutes and regulations and et cetera, are a direct reflection of the common law, are a direct reflection of the Constitution. But then as you go further and further, you start to further away from it, you start to see the agenda, that some of them are directly in opposition, which we know that any of those are technically void. But you just have to put them on notice that they are void, because if anything that is contrary to the Constitution is made legal, then yeah, it shouldn't be able to stand if you know your rights. But if you have to be operating in the proper status, which we talked about what the word status means in an earlier part as well. So, what are these comparisons? Let's see. Well, we got the private express trust governed under equity. Trust law is the most well-settled body of law in America, as opposed to the corporation, which is governed under statute, forever changing according to political agendas and schemes. Trustees are the sole authority, except where delegated to agents or the board or a board of trustees. Board of directors are managers with limited defined powers to conduct business, hold regular meetings, etc. So, very similar right here. Similar. Trustees afforded more leverage and powers that are generally broad than corporate officers. Law provides that they may do whatever an individual may lawfully do. The trust can do as well. The sky's the limit. Whereas here, you can only go as far as the statute says. So if something's lawful, but you're a corporation, you do it, and it's illegal, you're going to get in trouble. Continuing. Trustee's liability is limited by the trust instrument and by signature on all contracts and instruments. Basically, we talked about that 2 parts ago. Or was that 1 part ago? Where if you want to limit your liability further when you're entering into a contract on behalf of the trust, you have to sign a particular way. Whereas here, corporate officer is personally liable to the legislature and to creditors and for all ambiguous endorsements, which is just a fancy word for your signature. Continuing. 112. Remember, Enron and Global Crossing cannot escape service of process. Although corporate officers reserve the relative right to plead the fifth, meaning not to incriminate themselves, they have merely the relative right to plead the congressionally interpreted spirit of the amendment, not the letter of the law, due to their 14th Amendment citizenship. Trustees of an express trust have the absolute right to directly refuse self-incrimination as well, and indirectly on a jurisdictional basis, because they're not within that jurisdiction of the 14th Amendment right there. They're within the private common law jurisdiction. Lifespan of 20 to 25 years at a time in order to avoid rules against perpetuity. Lifespan is perpetual or a certain number of years according to legislative requirements. This is not necessarily binding. It can be longer, it can be shorter. It just depends what the purpose of the trust is, etc. Trust is not required to obtain business license, but you can register with Secretary of State. If you're not, don't, unless you feel like you should, but don't. That's just how I would put it. Don't need to. Trustees are not required to file reports with any entity because they're in the private. You have to record. You have to file quarterly, yearly, etc., etc. Business name is naturally protected, whereas here you have to secure. You have to go through a whole process in order to get a trade name, a DBA, all of that stuff. And sometimes, like, because if sometimes you might go to you might go and register with the state or whatever, and then you don't do the trade name search, and then all of a sudden now your trade name's gone. So again, that's a thing. All federal excise tax and organization and franchise taxes are legally avoided until you decide to play their game. If you're trying to go trade stocks, it's all about where the source of taxation is. Stocks are taxed. There's a capital gains tax, long term and short term. If you decide you want to go play in the stock market and you just automatically just say, oh, well, I'm going to do it in my trust, that doesn't protect you because a trust is still a legal person. Not even that. Even if it wasn't, you're playing in their game, and that source of taxation follows. It attaches. Okay? So if you don't want to bring your trust into the public, stay out of the public. Use another person. And if there's a trust that you want to use in the public, then you create a trust that you want to use in the public and keep all your assets in other private trusts. That's what I would do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can do what you want, but yeah. Yeah, you got to pay taxes over here. Pretty hefty sometimes, too. 15.3%. For, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. For LLC, no. That's for S Corp. And then double taxation for a C Corp. I can't remember. I'm probably misquoting, so forgive me. Attribute it to my long day. Here. Not subject to foreign corporation laws of any state, not inherently subject to commercial regulation, except for Inca 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 and 3. This is where you tell your sovereign citizen friends, stop being stupid. If the income is derived underneath from corporate stock and physical franchises that are in the United States, 28 U.S.C. 3002, United States, then you have to pay on that. You gotta follow some of the rules. Inherently subject to all foreign corporation laws and public policy regulation. Trust may function as an article. This one's good. Article 4, Section 2 citizen of the United States via its trustee, not a 14th Amendment citizen. This citizen is understood in constitutional law as private citizen. Let's read this footnote because this is good. Of course, it's Hale versus Hingle. There's another one. Oh, man. I got some footnotes. I gotta go back up here. So we talk about an Article 4, Section 2 citizen of the United States via its trustee. We're talking about, again, a private citizen. 117. For an understanding of the profound superiority of Article 4, Section 2, let's see. It's clause what? I want to pull it up really quickly. So I want people to be able to see this. So, give me 1 second. So, understand this. Where is it? I gotta find it. Article 1. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Article 1. Sorry, Article 4. My bad. It's been a long one. 4. 2. Okay. Which one is it? I think it's... I'm taking a while. My apologies. Section 2. But then there's something else I wanted to see. Okay, guess not. No, I'm gonna go to the other one. Whether free black Americans were protected as citizens under the Privileges and Communities Clause and other constitutional protections was a contentious issue. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. I don't want to read this excerpt. I think I clicked the wrong site. My apologies, guys. Here we go. This is better. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. So when we talk about the several states, we're talking about the republic, the private, the land. Whereas this is a big one. I'm not going to go into far in depth. I've talked about this already. The 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Public versus private. So, my apologies. I thought I was going to go into depth about that one, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I've been repeating it over and over again. Understand public, understand what's private. Once you get that understanding, things are going to become a lot more clear for you. So we got some footnotes. 115. Oh, this is a good one. So we're talking about tax. In either respect, all corporations are taxed indirectly via inflation. So what does that mean? Inflation is a method of taxation which the government uses to secure the command over real resources. Resources just as real as those obtained by ordinary taxation. What is raised by printing notes is just as much taken from the public as is an income tax. So understand this, like, the value of the dollar has been going down since Vietnam. Not Vietnam, that's a figure of speech. Literally since the beginning. And, what you gotta understand is at some point, like, there's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. If the people ever let private corporations essentially control the currency, whatnot, the American people will find themselves with nothing at the end. I'm paraphrasing that. I actually want to find that Thomas Jefferson currency quote, because this is a good one, and this is exactly what's going on. I don't want his currency. I just want his quote. Yeah, there it is. If the American people If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom to whom it properly belongs. A lot of people don't realize this. You can start your own bank. You can, like, not really a crazy concept. It just seems intimidating because, like, you look at banks and what they are today, and it's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. But you can do. You have to find a group of like-minded people that's willing to do such a thing. But essentially, like, look around. Like, I mean, look at the last housing recession and what happened and how the banks basically were bailed out and everyone lost their homes. And where did those homes go to? The banks. They technically never leave the bank's hands, even though someone does buy them, but that's a whole other story. Because that person who buys it only has equitable title. They don't have legal title. Not until that thing is fully paid free and clear. And even then, they might own the house, but they don't own the land because they're still paying property taxes on the land. So that's a whole nother thing after that. So, continuing. Trustees have absolute rights and privileges to engage in commerce of the federal Constitution. Corporate officers have relative right and privileges to do so and incur more taxability by doing so. 121, it says, any statute enacted by a state which prohibits this right is in conflict with the Constitution. Unlawful. Trustees issue certificates in the manner prescribed by the trust instrument. Certificate holders have no say-so in the administration of trust affairs. Must go public in order to issue stock. Stockholders have a relative say in affairs, depending on the extent of their holdings. So you see where they stole it from. They stole it right from here. Beneficiaries get the certificate holders. Beneficiaries get the certificates of beneficial interest. There's units of capital interest, certificates of capital interest, same thing, that you can give to people as well, but those are a little bit different. Interests of the beneficiaries well protected by equity. Power to secure information as to the action of the trustees in trust affairs is no doubt superior to the rights and remedies of stockholders in a corporation. Stockholders' rights protected by courts, yet the basic statutory nature of corporations allow for abuse. Stockholders are generally at the mercy of someone. So typically a stockholder can't just walk into a court of equity and say, hey, make this trustee do this. Nope, sorry. Because they have a public interest. And if that business is even doing remotely well, they're going to let that business continue to do what they want, because the business, essentially, this is why businesses get tax breaks. Because, like, don't get me wrong, there's benefits to having LLCs, S Corps, depending on where you are in your personal affairs. But the reason why they give all the S Corps, C Corps, LLCs these tax benefits and these tax breaks is because they're doing stuff that the government doesn't have to do. So, yeah, they're going to give them money. They're going to give them a break. This is why employees don't get paid nearly, but you're not doing as much as the business as a whole. And that's why they get the tax breaks. Employees don't. So go start your own business. Go drive down the street and see how many businesses are actually open. You can do it. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some studying. It's going to take some lumps probably, but you can do it. School and our educational system, this is information and entertainment purposes only, has conditioned people to become employees and not business owners, business creators, entrepreneurs. Continuing. Units of interest in the trust are not personal property of the certificate holder and carry no liability as such. Shares of stock are personal property in the hands of the owner, and taxes issue on same property against both owner and corporation. No legal obligation to maintain the capital and refrain from paying dividends. Trust instrument governs the payment of these dividends. The opposite is the case. They have to pay out the dividends. They have to maintain the capital, etc., etc. Obligation in trust or trustee's name without compromising legality. Same rules as to parties and procedure at law and in equity are applicable. And the corporation may bring and defend litigation in the corporate name and entity only. The process of piercing corporate veils succeeds mostly due to the confusion of personal and official capacities by officers. So remember how we kind of talked about earlier mingling trust funds, even though they should never be able to bring you into court for doing such thing. I would never recommend you do that. This is educational and informational and is only. I would never recommend you do that. This is essentially how that looks in the public. You're mingling between your LLC funds and your personal funds. So then they're going to see it as an alter ego, and they're going to tax you accordingly because that's what they do. Does that make sense? While the mortality rate of corporations and the like have historically remained high, express trusts remain, and indeed to this day continue to remain vital. 122. Reportedly, the oldest express trust in America is the North American Land Company, formed by Patrick Henry with the aid of John Nicholson and James Greenleaf for Robert Morris of Virginia, popularly known as the financier of the American Revolution, distinguished from Virginia colony governor, circa 1764, roughly a decade prior to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and Mr. Henry's compelling address to the Virginia legislature, Give Me Liberty, 1775. North American Land Company was later expanded in 1795, but was dissolved in 1798, at which time its land holdings consisted of roughly 4 million acres scattered over Georgia, the Carolinas, New York, and the states in between, for reasons. Continuing. Also, as the table shows, many of the powers of an express trust are substantially the same as those of a corporation in effect, but without the legislative requirement of registration in order for those powers to be activated. So, like, you see, like, there's similarities as you go back and forth between trust and corporation. One is just not governed. It's this side, the private. These advantages and more have been seized by some of the shrewdest, wealthiest individuals and families in America and from abroad. But the widely perceived yet untraceable wealth of such individuals and families like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Kennedys, Forbes, and many of the American founding fathers, plus countless modern-day politicians, are strong circumstantial evidence of this. One may find many articles and information as well as quotes attending to this. 123. One such quote is that of John D. Rockefeller, who is reported to have said that the key to true wealth and power. I'm going to start over because this is important. Please do yourself a favor and just listen, because this is good. One such quote is that of John D. Rockefeller, who is reported to have said that the key to true wealth and power is to own nothing and control everything. Your author, who was an attorney, is confident that the reader will see the self-evidence of this truth, and the private express trust throughout the relatively short history of America has served to facilitate this practice. A search for the assets of the Rockefeller family will prove the truth of this philosophy. Why is that? Because you're not going to be able to find them. Which the next one talks about, he lives well who conceals himself and his assets well. Lastly, it should be mentioned that, unlike the corporation, there is no lawful method by which to pierce the trust without the express permission or implied consent of the trustee or board of trustees, or some unlawful activity on the part of the trust giving rise to a bona fide cause of action. Basically, like, you've got to be the most incompetent trustee in the world in order to get your trust pierced. There's no jurisdiction by any of these courts. Now, if you do something to go out and harm somebody with your trust, yeah, you're done for. But they shouldn't be able to pierce your trust. As a result, virtually no direct evidence of the trust's existence can be found unless it is made to be found via a recording. Like I said earlier, you can register with the Secretary of State, but there's not a lot of reasons why you would do that. Even then, it can only be heard by a court of competent jurisdiction, which, as you shall see in the sections ahead, is very hard to find nowadays. This is protection at its finest, hiding in plain sight, for as the maxim goes, bene vixit qui bene latuit, which is what I read. He lives well who conceals himself, his assets well. Understanding commerce. How long is this part? It's not long. Do we want to do that? Because it's understanding commerce and doing business. We might lump those. Yeah, I think we're going to lump those two together. And I think I'm going to cut this one a little short. I'm going to go on a synopsis here. So basically, like, as we look at this, essentially what they did is they took the Private Express Trust, United States, and they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to create a commercial version of this so that we can have an interest. And anytime I say interest, anytime you see the word interest, we're talking about rights. So we can have a rights to any property, funds, etc. of the trust. Or, sorry, the LLC, the corporation. Or it could be a statutory trust, because there are statutory trusts that you use a registered licensed attorney to create. And that does, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't do you any good. But if you're trying to have real true privacy and not have anyone have an interest into your affairs, then I would never do that. Do it yourself. You can literally do it yourself. I've done it myself. Others I know have done it themselves. I've just created my first one. I'm going to create more. I'm going to create a lot more. Because why not? Create a trust for your land. Create a trust for your guns. Create a trust for your whatever. I mean, it just, it ranges so much you can do. But when you're using you're holding assets in these commercial entities, if you're like, you're gonna entangle yourself essentially. I'm not saying that these public entities aren't good for some uses. I'm not saying that at all, because there are people out there that take that extreme. But the majority of your affairs should be done in the private if you want to maximize your gain, if you want to maximize your protection, if you want to maximize your knowledge, even your understanding of what you're actually doing in the public. Because by studying the private more, it helps you operate better in the public. But a lot of people don't even understand that there's a private to begin with, so then that's why they go in the public, and now they're working for money instead of letting money work for them. I'll say that again. They go in the public without understanding the private, and now they're working for money instead of letting money work for them. So what's the solution? Operate out of private express trust. Here's another part. This is part 5. Going deeper and deeper and deeper of why it is beneficial to operate in the private as a trustee. I can't express it enough. There's no benefit. There are benefits and privileges here, right here. They're not good ones. Real ID. It's not. I don't know. You tell me. You look at it. Selective Service Act. So yes, sir. I mean, you name it. You know. I got a good one to end on. It's funny. I got a good one to end on. Let's do it. Because came across this the other day. I'll stop it. Include this. Why not? 1 USC Code, Section 8. Why did I say it like that? United States Code, Section 8. Person, human being, child, and individual, as including born alive infant. This stuff runs so deep. And this is why you need to stop operating in the public to a certain degree, if not completely. Let's read it. In determining the meaning of any act of Congress, public, remember? So remember, the Congress is in the what branch? The legislative branch. They create legal codes, terms, statutes. This is why they're creating a definition right here. Of any ruling, regulation, or interpretation of the various administrative bureaus, FBI, DEA, Braxton County, Municipal Court, Orange County Court. Those are public agencies, bureaus. 4D courts of the United States. 28 U.S.C. 3002 says the United States is a what? Stay with me here. So if anything is derived from an agency of the United States, that makes it a derivative of a corporation, making it what? Making it public. It's public. It's public. Have a nice day. It's public. Do we have a definition for public in this? If not, I'm gonna keep reading. You guys know I have tangents. This is the last thing I'm gonna do, and we'll shut it down after that. Oh gosh, no. Let's continue. The words person, human being, child, and individual shall include every infant member of the species Homo sapiens who is born alive at any stage of development. They're literally telling you what they're doing. Person. No. That's not what I want. You guys, you know exactly what I want. Person. A corporation, a partnership, unincorporated association, trust, estate, etc., etc. It's an entity. This is how you know that you're not a person. They're telling you right here, you are not supposed to be a person. Sorry, wrong one. Why is that? Because it's saying that people who are born alive, living, this is a replacement. They don't want to say man and woman. They want to say homo. They want to say the scientific term because they want to dehumanize you. They want to make you a corporate entity. This is why they're trying to take that and say that anyone who's born alive is a person or a human being or a child. These things don't mean what you think they mean. They don't mean what you think they mean. See if they'll give us a straightforward definition. Probably won't. No. 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 The term child means an individual under the age of 13. Individual. Notice how it doesn't say Homo sapien. Notice none of these codes ever say man or woman. I would look them all up, but I want to be tight on time here. They're basically telling you right here, any person, any man or woman that comes out of a mother at any stage of development, after expulsion or extraction, breathes or has a beating heart, they are going to be deemed a person. Bro, like, come on now. Why is this like? This is confirmation that everything has been commercialized, even starting with the human being. Now, this next part is a lie. Nothing in this section shall be construed to affirm. And this is them telling you. This is them telling you. Construed to affirm, deny, expand, or contract any legal status or legal right applicable to any member of the species Homo sapiens, aka inapplicable to any man or woman at any point prior to being born alive. Basically saying nothing, like, we can't affirm or deny any legal public status, public right to anybody, any man or woman prior to them being alive. But we know that's a lie based off of the UCC filings they do in the background, which we won't talk about tonight, but we know that's a flat out lie. We know that's a lie. This is why you have to operate in the private. Because for the minute the birthing waters hit that bed, matter of fact, before that, the minute you say you're going to the hospital, Jonathan P. Smith Hospital, to give birth to baby Frederick Deacon III, the minute you say that you're gonna do that, and you show up to the hospital, even before then, they've already made a filing, kid, saying baby boy, whatever. Period. The end. They were putting a security interest on that because you've already went to the hospital and said, which is a state entity, and said, I'm going to use you, and I'm going to sign up through my child through the birth certificate and all the et cetera, et cetera. This is not my opinion. This is what they're saying right here. They told you this. This is why they try to. That's why it says the meaning of any act of Congress, any legislation. From Congress, from the United States, from FBI, from the tax codes, from everything. This is why they put this here. And of course, it's one USC of the debauchery. So you have to understand these things, man. You have to understand these. And operate. When you understand these things, you understand the power and the doctrine of parents patria. You can look that up real quick before we sign off. It's been a fun night, as always. When you start to look these things up, man, it goes deep. I spelled it wrong. It is the right held by the court to take reasonable decision on the part of a person who is unable to make one for himself, aka a ward of the court, an infant of the court, someone who is incompetent, aka someone who has turned the rights over, to turn over. Usually such people suffer from disabilities, rendering it impossible for them to make the right decision. What disabilities could that be? Well, that could be understanding. A lot of people think that might be special mental disability. No, that just comes from the incapacity of not knowing how to handle your affairs properly. And that's important. Because if you don't understand this distinction, then you essentially turn over your rights. They're not going to tell you that on their face, but And then when you wonder why things aren't going your right way, going the way that you want for you when you're in court, this is why. Guardianship. So, the office, duty, or authority of a guardian. Also, the relationship between a guardian and a ward. It goes deep, man. I mean, you go down the rabbit hole, it'll tell you enough, but that's enough for the night. Wards of the court. These are people who have their rights and safety protected and guarded by the courts. Well, if we sign up to have an attorney, this is not legal advice, this is educational and entertainment purposes only. If we sign up to have an attorney, and an attorney is an officer of the court, that means we have placed our rights and our safety into the... With that being said, I hope you guys have had a wonderful time tonight. This has been fun, as always. Next part coming up in the next couple of days, talking about how to do commerce in general and how to do business, because everything does boil down to how you do business. And we can maintain our affairs, limit our tax liability, and have fun while doing it. You better believe that we are going to do so. So with that being said, peace, shalom.